thing for a young boy who is taught within this system, which is more common with the male gender, seeking Islamic knowledge, especially in the northern part of Nigeria. Now, the Almajiri system in Nigeria has been a source of concern and has been attacked for promoting youth poverty and delinquency, for failing to teach young boys vocational skills and thus making them unequipped for the workforce, and for radicalizing boys and making them perfect recruits for gangs and anti-social activities. Now, with the current COVID-19 pandemic, the system has been in the eye of the storm in Nigeria, as several of the Almajiris have fallen victim of the COVID-19, while some are caught in the crisis of relocation and relocation. Now, we have in the Situation Room today Mr. Mohammed Sabo Keana from the Almajiri Child's Rights Initiative, and we are going to be looking at the plight of the Almajiri, especially in this very difficult period of human existence. Thank you so much, Mr. Keana, for joining us.
Thank you, Mr. Charles, for having me.
All right. Now, let's look at the Almajiri system. In this time, in this, well, how would you say, is it in this century, and we are still talking about this form of education as we see practiced in Nigeria. You are an authority in that area, so what can you tell us exactly in a holistic manner for the uninformed about the Almajiris?
Thank you very much. So let me first of all correct the impression that I'm an authority. I am not an authority. I'm just an advocate for the children.
Okay.
And so I was just speaking on the perspective of activism and all that, and as concerns the right of the children. But of course, I can be able to say one or two things regarding the system and the current reality that we're facing right now.
Okay.
Just like you have said in your introduction about what an Almajiri system is and what the children are, of course, it has been a form of education system in the northern part of the country that has been existent for centuries, and even before the coming of the Western education, it has been a system that has provided education for the northern part of the country, and so you have people going through the system and becoming very used to the society at then, and all that. So it has been a good system and it has worked, in a way, up until we began to see the situation of the Almajiri children as associated with the system, where they have to beg on the street, they are out of school and all that. So it was a system that has worked before, and because of the change in times and reality around economic factors and all that, we can rightly say that it's not working, it's not functioning right now, and it needs to be reformed or suspended as possible. I mean, whatever the government thinks is more appropriate for them, So it's either they reform it or they suspend it, and that has been our position as advocate for the children.
Okay. As an advocate, you must have taken your time to study the practice, and you mentioned that even before the Western education came in, it had been a form of education that actually provided some notable individuals in the northern Nigeria. But as it is currently practiced, it appears it is a class thing, because I don't know if the children of the elites who are Muslims also do go through the system of the Almajiri education.
You're right. It's almost like a class thing, and of course, because indeed the children of the elites don't go to the Almajiris, and that's what we have also been saying over the time, that this system is nothing. It's not a culture, it's not religion, and it's not also economic factor, as some people want us to, continue to take it. Rather than because if you look at it in a way, just like I've mentioned, if you say it was a cultural thing of the people of the north, then we should have the emirs, because the emirs are supposed to be the custodian of culture. The elite, are supposed to be those that will have to promote the culture if it were cultural, So, but you see, it's not the case. It's only in the children of either the lower class or the poor as a way that practice it. So I mean, one can say it's a class thing in a way.
Okay. So now let's look at this situation around the lesson relocation of Almajiri from one state to another state, and some states trying to make sure that they close their borders to their entrance to the state. Mm-hmm. Now, as a right advocate, how does this action infringe on the rights of this group of people? And do you think it's also wise on the part of the government to take that kind of decision, those kind of policies to move these people from one point to another, taking into consideration that most of these people who will move from one state to another state tested in their large numbers tested positive to the COVID-19? So the first question is, how does this infringe on their right? And secondly, is this a wise policy on the part of the government?
So, well, first of all, let me mention to you that as government, government have a responsibility to take legislative, administrative, and social measures to protect children, from abuse, exploitation, even while in care of their own parent. And so, while we're talking about the right of the children, government also have the responsibility to protect them, from abuse, danger, and all that. And if you look at it from the context of the relocation we are seeing right now, it was a two-way thing. We as an advocate, we did reach out to the government to say that you need to take a strategic response plan on the Almajiri children in the midst of this COVID-19. And we give them three options, or two options rather. One, you should locate them and relocate them to their various community as soon as possible. Because we envisage that we're going to reach to a level where we have the total lockdown across the state, across even the country at some point, And once you have a situation of lockdown, the children and the system that house them cannot survive the business as usual in a lockdown. What I mean by that is that an Almajiri child cannot stay without going out to go and beg to eat. So he'll have to be on the street. So if you don't relocate him to his community, to his parent, and you ask him to self-isolate and stay indoor, what will he eat? So it's going to be that he will be exposed to multiple vulnerability, which is hunger, and if he's in self-isolation. And if he comes out to eat, he's going to be exposed to the virus. So there was the option we give that they should be relocated. And the second option was, okay, feed them if you can't relocate them, feed them. So for me, the government must have looked at what option is feasible for them and sustainable for them, and then that's why they began the relocation. But let me also say that, of course, the relocation could have done in a more strategic way, in a better way that does not in any way infringe on the right of the children. And when I mean infringe, it doesn't have to be the fact that they are being moved, but the fact that they must be properly documented. The approach of relocation in terms of conveyance from one point to another must be properly done. They must be ensured that they are indeed reunited with their family. Their manner of evacuation must be done in a human right, in a standard form that does not undermine their dignity as children. So this for me, at the point I would have loved to emphasize around this, because I've been hearing a lot of people making the talk around whether relocating them from one place to the other is a violation of their right. It's not. Absolutely not.
So, if you say it's not their right, and I also like the fact that you are taking into lesson cognizance the dignity of their person as human beings and citizens. But then from what you have said so far, there are a few concerns on my part here. So, you advise government, you and other groups concerning this advise government and give them option, and it seems obviously like they have chosen to go the first option of relocating these people to their various states and for a reason. So few questions also and few concerns is this, but when you advise, did you also envisage or do you also include in your advice the method of relocation? And you also consider yourself that if the host this in lockdown starts, these children might not have where to get food, so they might have to go outside, which will also expose them to the virus. Where you are relocating them to, will there be food for them in those areas? Because I believe that if they were living okay in wherever they came from, they wouldn't have had the need to migrate to another city to beg for alms and stuff like that. So is there going to be food for them where they are going to locate to? And then did you also include in your plan how these people should be moved? Because what we see from the videos and pictures are just people cramped in one place, and which also makes it a very fertile ground from transferring this virus from one person to the rest of the group, perhaps, which is one of the reasons why we have large cases turning back positive.
Well, I completely agree with the assumption about them being a vector of spread for one another. But okay, so answering your question more specifically, did we make a suggestion on how the evacuation will be made and all that? Yes, we the first letter we wrote, we made the two options, the two recommendations, and because it was not in position papers, that was not included, but it was with the hope that they should be able to know what to do as policy makers. So we as at that point did not specifically give approach on way to go about it, instead of conveyance and all that. But we subsequently were able to issue a position paper alongside other organizations, to be able to say that this must be the way. If you must relocate them, this is the way you should go about it, So we made such solution in the later day, although. The other question you raised was what?
Yeah, would they get food where they have been located since?
Yeah. So in the first place, the reason why they come to the Almajiri distance wasn't because they don't have food to eat in where they come from. I mean, they came to learn the Quran education. That is their main purpose. Like I mentioned earlier on, poverty and economic factors are what people is being used to justify some of these issues. So, but even as that, if part of the in the letter we also wrote, the first letter we also wrote, we also make that position to say that government should also include these children in the palliative that they are being given, given to others. And what we subsequently advised was that now that you are transferring them from one place to another, it is going to be irresponsible for you to just send them back to their parent empty-handed, since there's an ongoing palliative program to support the poor families and all that. Then they should also be included. I mean, package some little things in a small bag and give it to them to also take it home.
That's when they are going back.
When they are going back home to their parents, that would have gone a long way to also support their family as they go back to their family. So that will, of course, it's going to just be a short time something for them and their family. Yes.
Okay. Now, this action you're taking as a group for it goes to say that perhaps there is a database of Almajiris. There is a known location where they are. There is a system that is like an organized system of Almajiris to the effect that government knows where to go and pick them and put them in a bus and take them back home. Now, over time, there has been a lot of concerns about the system. So what do you think has sustained this system over time, especially the negative practices of them begging on the street as just opposed to receiving an Islamic education? So what has sustained this, especially the practice, the way it is, the negative aspect of it?
Lack of good governance. That was, for me, is what has sustained the practice up to this point. And when I say good governance entails three things: state responsiveness, state accountability, and state accountability, and what other one I think I forgot. And this has to do with those in leadership position being responsive to the yearnings and aspirations of the citizen. Just like you have mentioned, we see these children begging on the street for decades, but there have not been any serious commitment and political will by those in government to do something about it.
Is there not like a cultural impediment?
Let me just land on this. I mean, even if there were cultural impediment, those are all assumptions. Just I have mentioned for you, and that's why I know that people have always tried to use justification that because it's either religious, cultural, and that's why it has been sustained up to this point. We did a kind of deep system analysis of why it's existed up to this point, and we were able to counter all those claims. It's not cultural, it's not religion, it's not economic, and that's why I didn't mention them to you. You know, it is lack of good governance and the political will, and just like we have seen now that there is seemingly a political will among the governors. And we have seen that they are determined that something must be done about it, and even within very few distance, they are taking real action to solve it. So you cannot see there's nothing cultural about it. If it's culture, all of the governors are Muslim, they are Hausa, they are Fulani. And we mentioned about the issue of the class thing. You know, so there couldn't have been a hindrance, they couldn't have been, yes, those issues, culture, religion, and economic factors indeed played roles in bringing about the system, sustaining it up until this point. And you can clearly, give the period in which all of this play roles in it. You know, so I strongly believe that the reason why the system has sustained up to this point are none of those issues, but that of a political will and lack of good governance in terms of ensuring that using state capability to do what is right in terms of implementing laws, being responsive and showing empathy as leaders to the poor children you see every day on the street, and then doing nothing about it. And then, of course, corruption was the third one I was talking about. Lack of providing the school infrastructure in the community where they come from, so that it can even serve as an alternative for the parents to even send their children and all that. So these are the three things that have sustained the issue up to this point, and not what everybody has been claiming to be. Okay,
your group now, have you at any point tried to interface with the people that run this system? Because it's understand that they have, I don't know what they call them, is it malams or someone that trains them, because they come to get an Islamic education. Mm-hmm. They are under some kind of tutelage. Do you, in the course of your advocating for these children, do you interface with these people that train them, these imams or malams or whatever, to find out exactly why this system is run the way and what they can do to turn it around?
A lot. We of course, for the past, for all the time, we have been engaging them, we have been interfacing with them severally, and so what I keep telling people is that because people don't understand the psychology around why the system has sustained up to this point, so we keep applying giving some excuses as to justify something. And I keep mentioning that this is a norm. It's a norm, and you don't a norm, like I keep defining a norm. A norm is a habitual practice that people engage in it over time and sustain. So they see it as a normal something. And when you're trying to address a social norm, you that are trying to address it, there's what is called societal expectation. Societal expectation is different from social norm. You having a societal expectation of what certain things should be or the way it should be. So you now have that expectation and view, but the person who is practicing the norm doesn't see what you see.
And convincing that person might be very difficult.
Exactly. So the first thing is information intervention, enlightenment, education of the person to say that this is not correct, this can be done. And we've done it to them, and we have seen they have been very responsive. I could show if you go to our YouTube channel, you could see some of the Muslims saying, okay, yeah, we want change now. We want the system to reform now. We don't like the way these children are begging. We want them to also go to have schools, But that's because either they have been informed, or they have been enlightened, to change their mindset that this could be done better. This could be reformed to make the system more functional, more educative, and more performing for the children, for the society, and for the country. So it's not as if the Malams want it to continue that way, but it's because they grow up inside it, and so they see it as a normal thing. Yeah, Christian, maybe because your father was a Christian.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, so I wanted to quickly add, what about the Almajiri schools? We had the past government talk so much about Almajiri schools, trying to make a blend of the Western and the cultural, make it more organized, the environment and all of that. What is the state of those Almajiri schools right now?
The state of those schools, they are not functional. Very little are functioning. But they are not functional because they were not built on sustainability in terms of financial sustainability of it. And also it was more of top to down, bottom approach of the solving the issue. And just like I've mentioned as well, that the first you can achieve is it's very easy to achieve, to address this issue, and you can achieve the education, nutrition. You can even teach them in robotic engineering or artificial intelligence if you want, but you must have a framework that is sustainable.
Okay.
You must have a framework of implementation that is sustainable. And you cannot have a framework of intervention that is sustainable without reforming the system. And reforming the system does not mean feeding the children. It does not mean paying the Malam money. It does not mean bringing a teacher to their school to teach them maths and English or something, or teaching them or skill acquisition. That is not reform. The reform has to come around key component of the system. First of all, a reform means removing something or adding something to something that you say is not working to make it work better, right?
Yeah.
So what is it in the component, in the practice of the Almajiri system that is hindering some of these interventions for these children?
And needs to be reformed.
Exactly. Or need to be removed. It needs to be reformed. So those schools were not working because the system was not reformed. Okay. So building those schools does not mean that it's being reformed and all that. So if the reform action that would have first been taken, which is now being done now, is to say that let every children go back to their original state.
Okay.
So there must be a reform around the migration aspect of the system.
Yes.
There must be a reform around the privatization aspect of the system, where because my father was a Malam and then I become a Malam, or anybody who finished from Al-Majri or who can read the Quran can just go up and set up any place and become a Malam. There must be a reform around that place. There must be a reform around the multiplicity of the setups, whereby in Asokoro area here, you can have more than 5 different Malams just scattered around, in Malam. There must be around reform of those systems. So once you have that reform, and of course there must be a reform that also ensure a shared responsibility between the parents, the government, and maybe the community who want to support these children. So in other words, there must be a way in which the parent play a minimal role in support of the children, no matter how little it is. So once that is done, then you can build those big schools and then it will work. Otherwise, you can continue to build them, they will not be functional.
All right, so I actually wanted to take you back a little before we move on to another very important issue. When you mentioned about making suggestions to the government how to really go about the lesson allocation of the Almajiri, I was very interested to know some of those recommendations, specific recommendations you made to the government. Later, you say afterwards people made. I would have loved to know the specific recommendations you made to the government.
Okay. So, I mean, one of the specific recommendations has to be with the fact that the children should not be crammed in buses the way we are saying. I mean, like the Plateau State governor, they were a little bit insensitive and irresponsible in the way they have conveyed these children in the first batch, where they put them in an open lorry and in, trucks. I think that is a bit irresponsible for them to do that. So in one of our recommendations was to say that these boys need to be, first of all, properly profile. We profile them, their names, and then attach their names with photos, because some of us are interested to know if they eventually meet their parent or not. And then have a proper, their names and documentation and the community where they come from, So those are some of the specific recommendations we made. And then when they are being transferred, they must be transferred in a dignified manner. And then they should also be tested.
Before they are moved.
Either they are moved, or if they arrive their location, they must be tested and quarantined for 14 days, which some of the state governors did not do in the first instance, like Katsina State. They did not test the Almajiri children.
First time they came in?
Exactly. So that can increase the risk of the spread of the virus. And these children, if they must be treated with all sense of dignity as children and all that. So these are some of the specific recommendations we made.
Okay, those are very nice. Now another matter is this: like in the face of this whole situation that we are in, there are concerns from a lot of people that this might also breed a very fertile ground for terrorists who want to go into the communities to recruit members to their ranks, taking advantage of the situation. And then when you look at most of these locations of Almajiris are actually moved from places like Kano, places like Kaduna, to other more places far away northern states like the Kebbi, Borno, Jigawa, which you say experience much of this lesson terrorism. If they take them back to these communities and they get to mix, and these terrorists also taking advantage of recruiting members, wouldn't they serve as useful tools in the hands of these terrorists? Because also looking at the fact that one of the ways or why they could take advantage is the fact that if it doesn't get to some certain areas which is being controlled by these terrorists mostly, they might use it to say that, okay, where it's happening the most, this is where that their God is really punishing people there. So it might just be a sound argument on their own part anyway. So taking them to these parts and taking advantage of this situation, wouldn't they be useful tools in the hands of these terrorists?
That I don't know about that, but what I know is that taking them back to their community is something that should be done.
Can you support them?
Absolutely. Whether it's post-pandemic or before, I mean, the only thing is that the timing may be wrong. If only they hit to our call that we made much earlier on, So me relocating them is the best, but of course whether they can be used by terrorists, for some of us we have been saying that the consequence of depriving these children of education, livelihood, and all that for the past 20-30 years is it can lead to what you're talking about, being used for violence and terrorist activities, and that is. I mean, nobody can deny that fact. They can indeed be used for terrorism activities, for political thuggery, for banditry, and anything. And that's because if you are not educated to think rationally, and you don't have also the opportunity to have a decent paying job, anybody can come and buy your conscience and all that. But it has even been scientifically proven by the Global Education Trust, that people who are not who don't have to have education are 9 times more likely to be recruited into terrorism and all that. So what your fear or people's fear around them being used is justifiable, but I'm not sure that it is justifiable just because they have been transported back to. I mean, they are already Almajiri in all of these places I mentioned in Modringura and all that, and which has also been the fear of a lot of people that these children are exposed to be recruited into violent activities.
All right, thank you so very much. Our time is fast spent, but before you go, I want to actually right now address the parents, because these are the source of these marginaries. Parenting.
Mm-hmm.
If the family, if the mother, the father, they are responsible, they wouldn't have sent their children, irrespective of whatever reasons for them to send them out. Yes. So, using this opportunity, what will you be actually advocating right now for parents to do in the light of they being moved back effectively to their parents now? What would the parents do? Or is it now an end to the Almajiri system, moving them back to their parents? What should be the next thing?
For their parent.
For the parents and then for government.
For the parent, I know they are not listening because they are not watching TV programs. So, but just like I tried to mention to us that the parent, for me, they are not too much of the problem. You know why? Because like I told you about the norm factor, the social norm issue. If there was a consistent advocacy and enlightenment for them over the years, it can change their mindset.
The parents' mindset,
exactly.
Because they are the ones that will allow their children to go.
Yes. In any case, if government have also been responsive enough, they can also prevent the parent from sending their children to it. So that's why I try to focus more on the government than the parent, because like I mentioned to you that constitutionally in the UN Convention on Rights of Children and even Africa Charter and even our Child Rights Act says that government have the responsibility to take all these measures to protect the children from abuse. Exactly. So if a parent is being irresponsible by sending his child to a harm's way, government has the responsibility to protect the child, take all the measures it can take. So it has been more about government irresponsibility than the parental responsibility. Parents that are sending their children, of course they are irresponsible, but the government is more irresponsible for not So that's on that. But to also say that now that the children are returned back to their community, very good opportunity for we, the citizens and the parents, now to hold the government accountable on the real issue. And the next campaign will be send Almajiri children to class.
Formal education.
The definition of class is not the class that you know. Community learning Almajiri school system. And what we're saying is that if they are going to Sokoto from Maiduguri to learn Almajiri, they can learn it in their own community. That they could be an Almajiri set up in their community that allows them to attend the Almajiri school and also go to formal education within their community. They have this one at this point.
They can split the timing.
They can split the timing and go. Okay. So because we're not going to say because we don't like the system or it has been bad, it should be disbanded. A lot of people don't agree with that.
And also taking the cognizance of the fact that there is this school feeding system now.
Exactly.
Perhaps government can cash in on this.
That is it.
Make it more attractive for the students, knowing that you are going to have a meal if you come to Almajiri school. And also there's another meal waiting for you if you go for a conventional school. So it will be a kind of bait.
There you go. So now the next phase of what everybody needs to be involved in ensuring that these children don't come back to the street is now to hold government more accountable now. Because it lies squarely on the government. There should be more schools in the community where these children come from, and ensure that they send them to class.
More schools for Almajiri, more schools in our local communities, more responsibility for government, and also more responsibility for every individual in any community that you find these people. It is not just about government, it's about you, it's about me, it's about people of means coming out to ensure that these children do not go back to the streets, because they have been faced with a lot of challenges. A lot of them don't even live to tell their experiences, the ones that are documented and the ones that are not documented. So the onus belongs to Nigerians right now. These are children, these are Nigerians, these are the future of Nigeria, and they have to be taken care of. Thank you so very much for coming. We have been speaking with Mohammed Sabo Kiana. He's from the Almajiri Child's Right Initiative. It's an advocacy group, and they've been doing so well and doing so much for the rights of the child, especially the Almajiri children. this conversation is endless. There are so many facets when it comes to talking about Marjorie, when it's talking about child's rights, the rights of the Nigerian child, whatever they are, in whatever situation they find themselves. Thank you so much for coming once again.
Thank you, Mr. Charles.
And thank you out there for being a part of the Situation Room today. This is where we draw the line for the Situation Room. Join us again tomorrow. I'm Charles Sibe and
I'm Victor Tehemba. I'll see you tomorrow. No, sorry, Monday actually.
I'll be back again on Monday for some more on the COVID-19 situation. Have a lovely weekend and remember to stay safe so that we will all converge again on Monday for more talks on COVID-19. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Now the match don't start. Tunde na him first catch coronavirus. Him pass am to Sarah. Sarah go market and she dash Adamu. Adamu carry the virus run come give him children for house. Now so the children carry the virus enter playground. From playground, it can't enter grandpa body. Grandpa take over, pass and give him friends as they shake hand for road. Now so grandpa friends carry coronavirus go their house. Before you know, they don't throw away and give everybody for yard. Now so corona enter box 18 and he say goal! My people, if we give coronavirus chance, it go win all of us. Protect yourself and your family. Stay inside your house and make sure say you dey wash your hand with soap and water at least 12 times a day. If you get cough and fever and it dey hard you to breathe, call 0800 026 7662. Corona dey kill. Make we careful
Coronavirus no be our friend yo yo yo. Make we push am comot yo. Corona, he no be our friend. Say make we push am comot yo. My country people, you see this coronavirus no be joke. Make we help ourselves and our government pursue this yamayama sickness from our country. Make we remember to wash our hand every time with soap and water. Make we no forget to sanitize our hand and wear face mask when we dey comot. Also, make we avoid crowd and keep social distancing when we come out. My people, if you say you don't dey get symptoms, make you rush go hospital make dem treat you. Coronavirus no be our friend though. Make we remember say prevention better pass cure. Coronavirus no be our friend yo. Make we push am comot yo. Corona, he no be our friend.